Well, just because the legislature is not in session anymore doesn't mean we can't talk politics, especially since election season is upon us and the deadline to register to vote for the primary is a mere days away. As we speak to our insiders, conservative commentator Abdul Shabazz, Democrat Brian Gaddy. Good to see you gentlemen once again. And let's get started with election season, because a midterm policy or midterm platform, if you will, was just released this week by none other than the former Indiana governor and former Vice President Mike Pence. Now, it's interesting. I mean, whether we discuss the particulars of the platform or not, Abdul, the timing is interesting to me, given that the former vice president seems to be centering himself, or attempting to, as, if not the leader of the Republican effort to retake Congress, at least a leader. And, of course, we all know the potential aspirations he has for the White House in 2024.
Yes, and this is just basically another sort of bringing the ladder on the road to the presidency for Mike Pence. Because want to be seen as a leader in your party, or the leader in your party. Obviously, I think the leader of the party is still Donald Trump by default, because Donald Trump's a former president. But Mike Pence was his VP, so he's still technically kind of the number two guy, so to speak. Also, I think it's interesting, too, the fact that Republicans think they have a good chance of taking the House back this go around. So Mike Pence wants to make sure that his thumbprints are on whatever sort of victory Republicans may get when they come back, if they should happen to win, come this November.
Brian Gaddy, what do Democrats think about Mike Pence, not just the plan, but the fact that he is now attempting to be the face of the party when, of course, Democrats, I assume, would like Donald Trump to be the face of the party heading into the midterms?
Well, nothing warms my Democrat heart than seeing Republicans fighting each other. So you just have a situation here where you've got Mike Pence that really thinks he can take control of the party and be the titular head of the Republican Party, when we all know that it really still is Donald Trump that's still running the Republican Party. And you've got, as I like to say, the Putin wing, or the Gaga over Putin wing, that's headed by Donald Trump. He still basically calls the shots in the Republican Party. But then you've got the Mike Pence wing that's trying to, I guess, assume the mantle of Reagan and the Bushes. Well, maybe not the Bushes. The Bushes are pretty much persona non grata in today's Republican Party. But assume the mantle of Reagan and bring, I guess, that tradition of the strong international leadership that Reagan had in the Republican Party. So I guess that's really the role I think I see Pence playing. But in the meantime, we as Democrats are sitting back watching these two wings of the party fight each other, and they don't have a unified message. So it's really interesting to see which side comes out on top.
Do we even know who the leader of the party is right now? Is it still Donald Trump, or is it somebody else, or is that still to be determined?
I think it's Donald Trump by default, because, like I said, Donald Trump is, the ex-president and the most recent Republican president. So by default, he's a leader of the party. You have a lot of folks, a lot of primaries that are trying to emulate Donald Trump, and I kind of wish they wouldn't do that, because Donald Trump, he was kind of like Barack Obama. He's a unique character, a unique political figure, and only Donald Trump can be Donald Trump. So instead of trying to be Donald Trump, be yourself, because voters appreciate authenticity more than somebody trying to impersonate, another candidate. So that's kind of point number one. Point number two, I think it's going to be a while before we know who truly the head of the party is. That won't happen until 2024, once we have, go through the nomination process. And the one thing I will give the vice president, former vice president, credit for, he's talking about moving forward, not necessarily looking back at 2020, because the Republicans aren't going to win. They keep going back and harping on the 2020 election and alleged voter fraud, which didn't happen. It's a fact. Of got 60 court cases to sort of demonstrate that fact. So on that hand, I think the Republicans need to look forward, come with a plan, come with an agenda that they can beat the Democrats, because they have the wind at their backs right now. But it's nothing like being able to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
But at the same time, there's been this conventional wisdom, political wisdom on the Republican side for a bit now, and either one of you can take a stab at this, is that you had to kind of align yourself with Trump in order to have legs in a Republican primary, or a chance at winning a Republican primary. And in this case, if you align yourself with Donald Trump, if you can't come out and say publicly that the 2020 election was stolen, which we all know it wasn't. But if you don't say that, then you're not necessarily aligned with the de facto leader of your party right now.
Well, elections and politics is about the future, not relitigating the past. And those Republicans who want to keep propagating the big lie, and we all, as like Abdul said, we all know that President Biden won the election fairly. And those Republicans who want to keep propagating the big lie instead of talking about issues that affect people's daily lives, they're going to lose. And I don't think it's necessarily baked in the cake that we Democrats are going to lose the House. And I know we're going to hold the Senate. The Republicans have a way of not talking about issues that affect people, Americans on a daily basis, and talking about those insular issues that affect the far right of their party. They continue to do that, they're going to end up upsetting a lot of voters. And I think we're going to surprise a lot of people. I think there's a good chance we can hold the House. And I know some of y'all might think, he started happy hour a little early, but I think we're going to hold the House. I really do.
Let's turn now towards state politics and talk about some of the races that will impact the state of Indiana. It's not as if Democrats have a chance to take the House or even come close to taking the House or the Senate at the state level, but there are a lot of interesting races developing based on some of the redrawing of the districts this year. And one that was highlighted by our friend Adam Wren in his Importantville newsletter this week is in State Senate District 46. Now, that's held by a Republican right now. It seems to have been drawn potentially a little more favorably to Democrats from a demographic standpoint. It's almost 40% people of color living in that district right now. And there are a number of candidates running on the Democratic side, some candidates of color, some white candidates. And there was an allegation made, and I'm not going to name names, that's for Adam Wren to do, and we'll maybe have him on to discuss this further. But there was an implication made that someone in the race said that a candidate of color could not win that district, that it would take a white Democrat to potentially pick up that seat for Democrats due to the overall racial makeup of the district. Now, as a Democrat, Brian, that potentially speaks volumes for not just the District 46 race, but a lot of other races. If there is thinking out there that if a district is majority white, that a black candidate or a Latino candidate or any candidate of color would have trouble winning that district.
I would hope that the election of President Obama settled that question. I think candidates, regardless of their color, can win if they speak to the issues that affect voters in their daily lives. And the fact that a voter will look at a candidate and, I'm not going to vote for that candidate because he happens to be African American or Hispanic or Asian. I just really believe that politicians have a bad habit of not respecting the voters. I give the voters a lot more credit than that. I think the voters are going to vote for the candidate they think speaks to their issues the best, regardless of what their race is. That's what I truly believe.
Abdul, as you've pointed out before, District 46 is not the only place where this potentially might be an issue. And of course, we have the well-documented infighting that's going on within the Marion County Democratic Party. A lot of that having to do with racial matters and what black elected officials in Marion County say is a lack of representation among some of the party hierarchy, perhaps.
Yes, and I'll get into that in just a second, but I want to make two things clear on this concept that an African American can't win the new downtown district. First of all, if you look at the city council maps, that downtown district is represented by Bob Osley. Bob Osley is about as African American as you can get. In addition, you have Andre Carson, who's a congressman. Marion County is heavily Democratic, but it's not all African American. So you got Andre Carson, Bob Osley, who've won very well in their respective races. So to say an African American can't win, that's just ridiculous and nonsense. But it does get to the bigger picture, though, that I do think Marion County Democrats do have some racial issues that they need to go in the back room and or a cigar or whatever and get this stuff worked out. You've got Billy Breaux, the former state auditor, former state senator, who's running against Kay Spinney-Bell for county clerk. Now, why is Billy Breaux running? Because a lot of African Americans were upset with Kay Spinney-Bell over her allegedly denying African Americans and other people the chance to get on the ballot and get on the ticket and run. And they even went to the legislature and almost had it fixed so that Case Minnie Bell couldn't run for public office and be county chairperson. So I think at the end of the day, Democrats have some major racial issues that they need to work out. Otherwise, it may not necessarily affect them in the primary system, but it could affect them in the prosecutor's race, which is a big deal right now, because Ryan Mears has his own challenges. Ryan Mears is a good friend with Cindy Caruso, and also even further challenges in next year's mayoral race. Because I take you back to 2007 and 2011, when Greg Ballard won. He won in 7 because blacks stayed home. He won 11 because a good number of blacks who showed up voted for Greg Ballard.
Yeah, I know, and you're close to a lot of people involved in those controversies, Brian. So without stepping on too many toes, without crossing too many lines, how do Democrats become unified, in your opinion, before that happens?
We talk about the issues that affect Hoosiers and the residents of Marion County and the city of Indianapolis, and come together along the fact that we have to stay united as Democrats. Now, we do have these differences within the Marion County Democratic Party, but I hope we can peacefully and amicably resolve these differences. Now, I'm a Democrat. I'm obviously African-American, but I ultimately want our party to win and to serve the citizens of Marion County and the city of Indianapolis. And we have to do whatever it takes in order to bridge those divides and come together as one unified Marion County Democratic Party.
Well, and Greg, and it's like the mayor told me when I interviewed him a couple weeks ago. It's like, I'm not a member of any organized political party. I'm a Democrat.
You know, it's being a member of the Republican Party. They lead insurrections. So.
Brian Gaddy, Democratic insider, Abdul Shabazz, conservative commentator with us. Our insiders talking this week. Well, speaking of a potential lack of party unity on the Democratic side, one member of the City County Council, Ethan Evans, this week announced that he was leaving the Democratic Party to become an independent. Now, even though he was elected as a Democrat in 2019, Brian, we do know that from a political standpoint, a lot of positions that he held were to the left of some Democrats, and I guess, as it turns out, a majority of the Democrats on the council. What does this say about the party in general, whether it's unity, its positions on the issues, which in some cases may be to the right of some of the Democratic constituency? Don't know how much of the constituency in Indianapolis, but it is a very vocal minority, if it is a minority, of the Democratic constituency here in the city.
Well, we have to address the issues that affect the citizens of Indianapolis, and those issues include crime, creating jobs. And if you have a member of our party that doesn't align with those positions of the majority of the citizens of the city, then the Democratic Party, the Marion County Democratic Party, needs to speak to the citizens. And quite frankly, if you've got a member of our party, or now he's no longer a member of our party, that's saying to fund the police, the Marion County Democratic Party and the Indiana Democratic Party, that is definitely not our position. We support law enforcement. And I don't know what to say. If he doesn't align with that, then he has to do what he thinks is best for his political career.
Abdul, of course, Republicans in the extreme minority on the city county council, they're essentially trying to rebuild in Indianapolis. Does this create a potential opening for them, or something like this could create a potential opening? Or is this simply going to be fought out between the left and the center of Democrats, and this doesn't potentially change the overall political dynamic here in the city?
I think it does create an opening for Republicans in a couple of ways. Number one, the city council is going through redistricting right now. There's been some discussion that Ethan was going to be drawn into a district with another Democrat, and so because the Democrats were having issues with his position on things like defund the police, voted against the mayor's budget. So I know there was that sort of undertow in a lot of this. Republicans are basically, 5 Republicans right now, so there's no place to go but up. So I expect them to actually pick up a couple of seats come next year in next year's elections. But here's the interesting thing, though. Now that Ethan has declared his independency, the question is, will he keep his committee assignments? Because I go back to 2008, 2009, when Ed Coleman was a Republican who ran when we still had at-large seats, left the Republican Party to become libertarian. Well, since he was no longer in the Republican caucus, he lost all the committee seats and assignments. And folks were yelling that he should keep his seats, and Republicans like, no, he's not a Republican. Democrats saying he's not a Democrat. So I don't know how effective Ethan is going to be going forward. Like I said, if he's not a member of either the Democrat or the Republican Party, and probably not going to caucus with either party, and also if it passes pro-law, no committee assignments as well. So the question is, if you're here, what are you doing here?
The intrigue will only grow in the coming weeks, and of course, we'll be a week closer to primary day the next time we meet and pass the voter registration deadline, and we'll probably delve into some of those races that we'll be looking at next time we speak to our insiders. Abdul Hakim Shabazz, Brian Gaddy. Always appreciate it, gentlemen.
Thank you, Rick. Always good to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hey, come on now. Said it last week, this show is rated PG. As you can probably tell by the blue content there, today is the day of the green, St. Patrick's Day. You could spend it quietly with the great Michal O'Meara Hartig making you the perfect sandwich.
Pizza and shin, agus pizza and Dave shin.
Or you could do as WRTV legend Reed Duffy did 41 years ago and spend a loud, somewhat debaucherous religious holiday with the great Gordon Pipers. So loud, our old videotape machines had to shake out the cobwebs, apparently, and they hadn't even had anything to drink yet. The Gordon Pipers had a full day of activities every St. Patrick's Day, all because of their founder, a Canadian veterinarian turned Hoosier.
The Gordon Pipers have been an essential part of St. Patrick's Day in this city since 1962, when Dr. Wallace Gordon Deal founded this windy organization. Before the celebration ends, they'll have found their way to 15 watering holes throughout the city, luring till about 3 in the morning. They tuned up at the brand new Union Jack and Speedway, where they'll wind up about midnight, no doubt in peak condition and feeling no pain. Such is the lure of the bagpipe, one of mankind's oldest, most traditional instruments, especially in Scotland, where most are made and tenaciously cherished, as Dr. Deal found out one day in 1954, when his wife sought to purchase a used bagpipe from a Scottish dealer in his native Canada.
So she goes into the store, and an old Scotsman comes out, and he says, "Can I help you, lassie?" And she says, "Well, yes, I'm kind of looking for a used set of bagpipes." What? He says, "There's no such thing as a used set of bagpipes." He says, "They're a personal matter." And he had her in tears. So he told her, "Well, you got to buy a practice chanter and a book and learn. And when you can play 5 tunes on that practice chanter, we'll think about selling you a set of bagpipes."
Thankfully, Dr. Deal learned his 5 songs, got his precious pipes, and got others to join along with him. And just like the mayor doing goofy waves and dances and this dude in the wig and the kilt, really, man? Really? The Gordon Pipers, to this day, remain a cherished Indianapolis tradition. So Sheena Gabe with Throwback Thursday, Ray Steele, WRTV.